If you are an executive, this book is awesome because it gives you a chance to read about what you could or should be doing in pricing, and you can do it in less than an hour, come up with at least one or two ideas of things you can go do, and it's going to make the company money.
Coffee's for closers only.
So we've established my proposal is sound in principle. Now we're just haggling over price.
Let's see how much we're going for on eBay.
I mean, it's the same as Dunkin' Donuts. Costs 15 times the price.
Welcome to Impact Pricing, the podcast where we discuss pricing, value, and the instant relationship between them. I'm Mark Stiving, and I run boot camps that help companies get paid more. And today our guest is, well, I guess I'm not sure if I'm the guest or if Rebecca is the guest, but we have Rebecca Kalogeris here to talk with me today. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hello, Mark. It is always a pleasure to talk to you. And we've done many a podcast together on other shows. So but this time I'm stealing the mic from you. I'm taking over as your host so that I can put you on the hot seat. So everyone who's been a guest before is going to be like, turnaround is fair play.
It is. And what are we going to talk about today? Not that I don't already know, but.
Well, Mark, you may not be aware, but you have written a fourth book that just got released, right? Instant Profits, How to Raise Prices Without Losing Customers. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that book and what it's about, what drove you to write it, why it was something you were so passionate about creating.
Okay. Do you want me to just blather, or do you want to ask one of those questions?
I'm going to ask first, why you wrote this book.
So it's actually fascinating because I was trying to write a different book targeted at CEOs, and I'm sitting on an airplane and I just can't get my arms around how to structure the book. And I've been doing a lot of boot camps lately, helping companies figure out how to raise prices. It's like the biggest thing that's on everybody's mind. And it just hit me, people really need to know what I know about raising prices. And I started writing the book, and I said, look, I'm not going to put fluff in it. I'm not going to put stories. I'm just going to write, what do they need to know? And believe it or not, I was done writing it in about 2 flights. So let's call that 6 hours, 8 hours, something like that. So you can tell it's not a very long book. But the first draft was done really quickly and it just flowed. It was amazing. I loved the process of this one.
Well, and I think one of the reasons it was so important is you run into this a lot when you're working at boot camps, whether directly with companies or through their PE firms, that there are people really missing the opportunity to raise prices. And it's because there's fear, right? There's fear that I'm going to do this incorrectly and my customers are going to leave me forever. My business is going to fold. I'm going to be stuck on the street. It goes deep and it's emotional. And because it's an area you know so much about, you really, in the book, you really helped them face their fears, recognize them for what they are. And then hey, let's talk about how we're going to do this systematically to lower that risk and to get the rewards that you deserve, let's say.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about the fear thing for just a second. I'm going to call him a really good friend of mine at this point in time, but he's someone who works for a PE firm. He helped me form some of the first boot camps we ever did. He went through a half dozen boot camps with me. It got to the point where he could teach if he wanted to, right? He knew my content so well. And I got a call from him the other day and he's like, Mark, we're having a pricing problem. I was like, sure, happy to talk to you. And it turns out the pricing problem is he was afraid to raise prices. It was hilarious, right? I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to embarrass him, but the guy's brilliant.
Right.
And it just amazes me how easy it is to be afraid. And when we step back and start thinking, oh, look, we don't have to raise prices across the board to every customer. We just have to think about, where does it make sense? When does it make sense? And how do we go about doing it? And we can get some of that fear out and get people to actually go raise prices.
And it is funny because, you can know theoretically what to do and why, and right, and teach it and understand it. But still, when you're applying to you, there really is a fear. You did mention that you wrote it in 8 hours. Now you are a very quick, prolific writer. But you also hinted that this is maybe not as long as some of your other books.
Maybe not as long.
Leading question here. Maybe not as long.
I have to say it's the thing that makes me most nervous about the book and also the most excited about the book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you look at Selling Value, the third book I wrote, that has 50,000 words in it, right? It's filled with stories. It's filled with dialogue. It tries to make it readable and fun. This one, instead of 50,000 words, it has 4,000 words. Now that means 1/10 the number of the words. I didn't write stories. I didn't write examples. I didn't write anecdotes. It's like every paragraph is a fact, and you should be thinking about how do you apply this paragraph to your company. So why is that exciting? It's exciting because you can read this book in an hour. So you should get it and read it and then read it again and then decide which paragraphs are we going to go do something about. You're not going to do all of it. I get it. But if you can't find something in that book that makes sense for your company, then you're not in a position to apply those concepts.
Tell me more about that. What do you mean you're not in position to apply those concepts?
Well, so before I answer that, let me tell the audience how much we're charging for this book.
I was going to wait for the end, but let's do it. Price matters. Now and I want you to explain how much it is and why that is what you did.
Yes. So we decided, I'll take all the blame. I decided
this was Mark.
I wanted to write a book and I'm charging $100 for this book, right? $100. That seems ridiculous. But when you think about value-based pricing, we're not pricing by the word, we're pricing for the value we deliver. And I wrote this book for people who are running companies who have the ability to go make decisions inside the company. So if you're running a product line, if you're actually the CEO or an executive of a company and you can make decisions and make a difference, $100 is almost peanuts compared to what you're going to make from this book. Right. So when you think about value-based pricing, I way underpriced the book. But I thought $100 would stand out and it would make it look like, hey, that guy's really proud of his book. And in a lot of ways, I really am. So if you're not in charge, if you don't have the ability to go make changes in your company, don't buy the book, right? That book is for people who have the ability to go make changes and they'll go implement something and they will absolutely make way more than $100 from something that they learned in that book.
I like to think of it as it's sort of like a playbook, right? Each of those are really proven plays that you've done and you've helped other companies do in a ton of different environments. And the reader's goal is to read through these, identify the ones that really fit in your environment and go implement them. Like you said, take action because the rewards are going to be significant, measurable, impactful.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. So now that we're talking about the $100 price point, can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Tell me about Amazon's pricing and what we're dealing with in the Amazon pricing world. Because we're only selling this at the moment. It's only available on Kindle through Amazon. We'll tell the rest of that story in a minute. But tell us about Amazon's pricing because you did all the Amazon work.
Oh yeah, it was great fun. Really loved it. So in case anyone's unaware, Amazon pretty much has a monopoly in book distribution, particularly ebook distribution, right? And they know it. It's clearly. And what's really interesting is they have 2 royalty programs, right? You can either earn 35% royalty on your book, or you can earn 70% royalty on your book. Now, Mark, which one would you want to earn?
I vote for 70%. 70% sounds way better than 35%.
Because you wrote it, right? Funny story. You can only get that amount of royalty if you price the book between $1.99 and $9.99. That's it. If you charge $10 for your book, $10.05 for your book, then you are in that 30% royalty frame.
I'm curious, is $100 in between $1.99 and $9.99?
It is not. But, it actually made me look at most of the books that I purchase on Kindle, and they're also not in that range. So it's sort of like the majority are definitely not. So it feels like it's there to be like, well, we would let the authors get that much if, they charge less. But it's clearly, it's like a fake royalty line. But if you think about that That's an enormous percentage of the profit and revenue
Huge.
that Amazon is taking. Now, it may be if you go through a publisher, they have different negotiated rates. But this is if you are publishing directly, as you did with this book and your last book, this is how the wonders and joys of Kindle publishing works.
And so I want to point something out. We're charging $100 and we get to keep only 30 of that 100.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason I'm charging $100 isn't because I need the $30 or the $70 or something like that. The reason we're charging $100 is because I want buyers to know that it's worth $100.
Mm-hmm.
That's
mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah.
And so it was painful when you told me that.
I know. I was
like,
like, I've got great news, Mark. And like you can't get the information, like it's like little breadcrumbs. So you keep learning new like pitfalls. And you're like, oh, look at that. Who knew? So it was, it was an experience. But we do have the hardcover coming together. So you'll be able, for the $100, you can get either the ebook version or the hardcover.
I was about to ask you, why do we only have a Kindle version today?
Because again, there's lots of little joys. And then there's page limits that you have to hit. And there's, process. It's been really fun to go through. But I do think we're ending up with a really nice hardcover version, which has got some great place for notes because, as you said, sort of like each paragraph in there is really almost a whole idea and concept in itself. And it's a great place to reflect. I say that, I read the book quickly, but I've thought about the book for months since I got to read it early, right? I thought about it and the concepts in there for months. And I think that's some of the joy. And so having the hard copy to be able to like write your notes in and kind of stop yourself and think, great, how am I going to implement it is great. Or if your eyesight is failing like mine, then you read the ebook and you can see it. And that's great.
You make the font really big.
Right, I know.
Well, just because the story's fun, Rebecca came to me and said, Mark, we can't have a spine for the number of pages we're going to have. And I thought, if we don't have a spine, it looks like a pamphlet.
Mm-hmm,
How do you charge $100 for a pamphlet? And so we were like, well, what do we do? And then I thought about kids' books, and kids' books are hardcover, and they don't have that many pages. So it's like, well, we should be able to do a hardcover. Turns out there's a page limit. You have to have at least, 70 pages or
78, I think.
78 pages? Trust me, this book is not 78 pages long. So we ended up adding a bunch of notes pages to it just so we could get to 78 pages and put out a hardcover version. So at least it looks professional when you put out a hardcover version.
To be fair, we were like at 60 pages. Like the book is short. It's not, 4 pages long, but it's longer than Hop on Pop, right? I mean, it's got pages, but it wasn't enough. And then it was like, how do you add pages to make it seem intentional and to be useful to the reader so that the experience was nice? We had an early version that came in. It was just sort of random blank pages. And I was like, I can't even show you, Mark. This is why they're not available at the same time. Because I was like, nope, that one's not going to work. But I do think we came up with a nice balance. But
excellent. I'm looking forward to getting a hard copy version. That'll be nice.
Yeah.
That'll be nice.
Yeah. It'll be good on my coffee table. Or maybe I'll just put it behind me so that people see.
Ooh, there we go. There we go.
Collection.
So, all right. Did we miss any good stories on the book at this point in time? Why we've done what we've done?
No, I mean, I think, again, you've had some other people, not just me, who've read it, that's had some really positive reviews. And I think I'll be really excited when we start to collect back stories of things that people implemented. And I think that'll be really powerful.
Yeah. So I'll just reiterate one more time. I guess that was redundant. If you are an executive, this book is awesome because it gives you a chance to read about what you could or should be doing in pricing, and you can do it in less than an hour, come up with at least 1 or 2 ideas of things you can go do, and it's going to make the company money.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at it.
And it does unlock other resources. There's like an online kind of portal for people who buy the book that you get access to other stuff on the topic just because Mark can't stop talking about the topic. So it's good to have a chance to.
Someday I'll stop talking.
No. Yeah, I have read it. I've read it more than once and it is an excellent book. And I'm excited for other people to read it as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Rebecca. I guess we're done. To our listeners, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast or the book, feel free to email me, mark@impactpricing.com. Now, go make an impact.